Nebraska's fan base is rabid.
Yes.
Crazy.
But at times, the Nebraska fan base can be unreasonable.
That is true.
Would you say the same thing about the Sooner fan base?
Absolutely.
But I just didn't know if that was something that Oklahoma's experienced. Obviously, you have not been in the dumps like Nebraska has been for quite as long.
The Brent Venables seat is there's probably people calling for his job.
Oh, at this point, absolutely. But for instance, to that point, I'll take you back to September of 2022. Brent Venables is in his first year on the job. Oklahoma loses their home conference opener to Kansas State, 41-34. Goes down to the wire. It's a one-possession game. They lose. Open up the message board on 24/7, and immediately, first thing I see is 5 threads that say, "Fire Brent Venables." Yeah, it's like, really? We're already doing this, but that's just how fans are. They make the world go round for people like us. So love them for it, hate them for it, but that's the way it is.
Seeing that reaction to, and that was the Adrian Martinez game.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Remember that?
That's right.
That was a solid K-State team.
Yeah,
They were Deuce Vaughn.
Yeah.
You see that reaction. It's year one. Of course, that's an overreaction. But 2025, is this the do or die in 2025 for Brent Venables, do you think?
It certainly feels that way. It feels like everybody on that staff is coaching for their job in 2025. And that's the way the overwhelming majority of the fans feel. That's the way the overwhelming majority of the media feels. And you talk to people within or tangentially connected to the program, they all kind of have the same sentiment. There's a world in which things aren't quite bad enough in 2025 that he gets another year in 2026 to turn things around. But the rough barometer is you got to win 8 games in 2025. If you don't win 8 games in 2025, at that point, you have to be receptive to what the fans want, right? Because you lose the fan base, you're done at that point. When fans stop showing up to games, well, that drags the whole athletic department down in terms of rev. And in this era in particular, you cannot fall behind in the revenue realm. And Oklahoma would have to pay a pretty penny to get out of Brent Venables' contract. So that's an issue in and of itself. But everybody right now is kind of bracing for 2025, hoping that the acquisition of John Mateer, the #1 player in the transfer portal, former Washington State quarterback, is going to be enough to kind of stabilize things. They're also counting on the absurd rash of injuries that Oklahoma experienced in 2024 to not be replicated in 2025, which I think is a fair expectation. Oklahoma had more injuries in 2024 than I've ever seen for any football team.
Do you think that was the transition to the SEC in the physicality, or is just
no, it was just
bad luck?
Yeah, and it was a variety of different things. One guy tears a knee tendon on the practice field. Another one gets rolled up on. Another one just steps the wrong way, dislocates his ankle. It's bad luck.
The whole wide receiver room that went down, wasn't it? Plus some.
The top 6 wide receivers on Oklahoma's depth chart were all unavailable.
That's insane.
Yeah, you had like 20 major injuries on that roster by week 7 or 8.
Guys, Oklahoma's leading receiver in the year of our Lord 2024 had 324 receiving yards.
I mean, I have to think that after 6 wide receivers go down, you're seeing dudes on that depth chart.
By game 8, they were starting a walk-on true freshman at wide receiver.
That's good.
Hey, Nebraska's done that without injuries before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't need injuries to play our white walk-ons.
I've got a bunch of family that lives in Oklahoma City, obviously big Sooner fans. And I told them after Lincoln left and the outlook was they were going to the SEC, I said, I have watched this movie before. Nebraska did the exact same thing, almost identical, only Bo Pelini was able to work in the Big Ten for a bit. Yeah. But you lost a winning head coach and you're getting ready to walk into a conference that is presumably better than what you're coming from. Good luck.
Ask him, Kyle. Is Oklahoma... Come on. How many times have you been asked this question, Parker?
Is Oklahoma the Nebraska of the SEC?
There it is.
There it is.
Too early to make that judgment.
Yeah. I would agree.
And maybe that's not the answer that people want to hear. Maybe they want a hot take.
No,
Too early to make that judgment. But
this is cope on your part. You don't want to cover a crappy team.
Yeah.
Cope.
Here's the context that you have to have for Oklahoma football. They won 10 games last season.
Right.
So going into the season, nobody was under the impression that, this is going to be that Oklahoma's going to crash and burn in 2024. But terrible circumstances all the way around. And were there things that they could have controlled that they did not? Things that they could have done better that they did not? Absolutely. But I think the hope right now for everybody down there is that 2024 was an aberration for that football program. And the jump you saw from year 1 to year 2 under Venables is more indicative of where this program's headed. But they have more gaps to fill heading into 2025. Certainly. All the answers are not there just yet.
I see why they spent a lot of money on their quarterback.
Yeah.
They did spend a lot of money on John Mateer.
Mm.
And you come to understand why if you watch his tape. Gamer, man, threat with his legs, obviously a threat with his arm. The release is a little wonky. It's a little low, and that turns some people off, and I get that. That's one thing that people are going to want to say, okay, can you get away with that in the SEC? But he led the FBS in total touchdowns with 44. Oklahoma hires his former offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle, at the beginning of December. And now really the only question I have, guys, is Oklahoma's going to return 8 of 11 starters on the defensive side of the ball. So there won't be a ton of turnover there. The question is, do they have enough in the budget to go add the impact skill guys that you feel like a guy like John Mateer is going to need in order to help this program ascend to greatness once again in 25?
You know, the more and more you talk, it sounds like Oklahoma is the
little
Nebraska of the SEC. That sounds exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
You're in the position. Can we get enough good players
Around
And
our
you know,
good quarterback.
When you start asking that question, it's like, oh,
And you know what? That might just be the blanket question for every team
Right.
that is now dealing with NIL. Can we
I mean, it
just
really is.
Can we just
Like,
buy enough really good players?